Sorry. So I would like to continue with the shopping list that we have. So let me share it. Once again, we have this shopping list, and this is how it looks like: apple, banana, orange. Okay. And if we put something here in our input field and we click add button, it's been added to the list. So I'm going to say fine, apple, add, and it's getting added. Okay. So another thing that I would like to show you to that is that how we can use keyboards. Okay. So what I would like to do is that if, for example, I put a name here, let's say papaya, and if I click enter, so I would like to add items with the keyboard key, specifically enter. So when I click enter, I would like my items to be added to the list. Okay, but it's not happening only if we click this button, right? So I would like to add another event listener, but not to the button right now, but to the input field. So how can I do that? First, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say button, oh, sorry, input, right? So I'm going, my input now is going to listen to an event. What kind of event? We need to figure out. Okay, so it's going to listen to what? It's going to listen to click? No, because I'm clicking my keyboard instead of my mouse. Remember, click is a mouse event, while keyboard press probably, or just press, is going to be a keyboard event. Let's check it out in the DOM event here that we have. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit and press. Not present, right? So probably we need to.
It's key press, I guess.
Yes, it's here, key press, right? So we need to use key press. Then we will say function, and basically we are going to have the same thing here. Okay, but we need to figure out what kind of key is going to listen to. Why? Because if we just leave it key press, this is what we will have. Okay, I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it, and yeah, I will try to type down papaya. So I will say P, and then if I press A, you can see my P has been added to the list. Okay, and if I will try to type down papaya, you can see it's been added but separately. Why is that? Because currently we are listening to any kind of keyboard action. So when I click P first, it's not been added because there is no previous value, because previously it was 0, but now it's P, and now it's more than 0. So that's why when I click A, it automatically adds my P to the end of the list. Okay, and I need to avoid that. I need to make sure that only when I click the specific key on my keyboard, it's only then when it's being added. Okay, so I need to add a new condition here, probably. So value greater than 0 is not enough. So we need to say and, or we need to say and, sorry, it's not Python, it's JavaScript. This is how you add and then you need to say keyboard event. And then we need to find the keyboards for enter. So we need to say keyboard enter code. Okay, and keyboard event values on CSS Tricks says that the enter, where is it? So backspace is 8, tab is 9, and enter is 13. Okay, so now we need to say, we need to make sure that only when we press enter, sorry, that's when we add the value. And if I will say keyboard event key, there is nothing. So it's something else we should do. Okay. So here our function is not going to be an empty anymore. So it's going to listen to event that is going to happen to our input field. Okay, so our event will be responsible to the keyboard event. Okay, you can even place it here and you will see it here. Event that says parameter event keyboard event. Okay, so we will say event should be equal to 13. If we save it and refresh, let's try. So I'm going to say papaya, and if I click enter, oops, nothing happens. So once again, there is something wrong. And could you please tell me how we can fix that? I would like to hear it from you. So I would like you to think, what are the ways? You can Google it and show me or tell me how we can do it. And I will share my code with you so you can keep look at it. Any ideas? You take your time, think, maybe look for something.
Teacher, may I ask?
Sorry, Adlet? Huh?
Yes. May I ask?
Yes,
Just
sure.
one question. What is the event in function? I don't understand. And why it's equal 13.
Okay. So when we have a key press, okay, so key press automatically adds an event to our function. So event is a kind of input. Okay. So every time we click on our keyboards, we are doing an event. Okay. And we could also add it here. So every time we click on it, it's going to trigger an event. Okay. So event is a kind of a default parameter. But if you are not defining it in your function, that's also okay. So it's situational. Okay. And here in this situation, we need to use that because we would like to say that our event should listen to a specific key. Okay. And when we say event 13, it doesn't work. So there is something else that we should do. So event is responsible for the whole event that happens. It can be any key, right? So, but when we are saying event equals 13, it doesn't work. So probably there is something else that we need to say, not just event, right? Because event is just a general concept, it's very broad.
Event.keycode.
Thank you. Event.keycode will actually apply it here, and if we check it, and if we click enter, that's going to work. Okay. So not just event itself, but the specific key code that is going to trigger our event has to be equal 13. And 13, once again, is referring to enter. Okay, we can do it with a shift, control, alt, and any other things. Okay, and now there is something, and there is something very similar in our code. Okay, and what we are going to do now is we are going to clean our code. Okay, so it's not going to be longer that messy. Okay, so you can see that we are getting this function, or sorry, that we are getting this repetitive action. So probably we need to do something with this. Okay, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say function, and I'm going to say add, let's say, item. And I'm simply going to copy this here. And in my bigger function, I'm just going to say add item like this. Here the same. now every time we call, or we are doing this event listener, so every time we click on it, it's going to trigger the following. It will trigger the function that is going to trigger another function, which is add item. Okay, and let's check it out if it's going to work the way it worked before. So
You forget
our
dot comma in code.
sorry.
Add item. Input at event listener. Yes, there is. You forget right dot comma. It's important.
Yeah, well, that's fine. Well, in JavaScript, sometimes semicolons are not very important. Sometimes you can neglect it sometimes, but in other cases, it may ask to add it. Okay, but here it's fine because we're just having one line of code. Anyway, so I'm refreshing, and if I say papaya, click enter, oops, value is not defined. Okay, why is that? Because, well, here, this function doesn't know anything about this one. So probably it's going to be very wise to remove it, okay? And instead, we're going to say input value is greater than 0. And we're going to do the same here. Input value length, sorry. And I forgot length here as well. Now it looks fine. And add item is going to listen to value. So it's going to be input value. Let's check it out now one more time. So I'm going to say papaya. Oh, it works. And if I say pineapple, it also works. So now it worked correctly. And even our code now looks a little bit cleaner because, we are not calling the same functions one more time, because if this one is called once, okay, so it's being cached, this function. So when you call it the second time, it will refer to the cache memory, not just RAM memory anymore. Okay, so in the cache memory, it will take less space and it will be much faster. Okay, so once again, it makes your code cleaner, but also more efficient, because once your function is cached, it will be run from cache if it's called the second time. Okay, and it's also something from the Java courses, so probably you understand this concept. Okay, and is there something else that looks very similar in both events here? In both functions, probably input value length is also the same as here and here. So we can add another function that will say let's say input length, and we will say return value length. Okay, so here we are going to call this function input length, and it will say input value. Save it, or sorry, copy it and place it here as well. So now it looks fine. So if you're confused with the value here, you can place it with A, and here you can place it with anything else. So we can say text. That won't make any difference. Okay. So what happens here? First, if we are checking, and then we are calling function input length, which will take our input, which is input value here, and it will return the value length oh, not value length, sorry, it should be a length. And here it should be text and text like this. Okay, now I hope it's going to be fine. So, and it returns that parameter length, which is in our case is going to be input value. So everything works fine. So let's check it out one more time. So I'm just going to say papaya. I'm not clicking on this button. I'm clicking on my keyboard, enter, looks fine. Oops. So we're getting this problem. This one is not being cleared. Okay. So probably here we need to say text, probably value, right? Let's check it out one more time. Papaya, enter. Oops, doesn't work. So we should keep it input value. Let's check it one more time. Papaya, enter, works fine. And if I say pineapple and click on my button, that also works fine. So now our bigger code with the repetitive actions now looks a little bit cleaner, and we are saving a lot of memory by just replacing it with functions, okay? And those functions are going to be cached, okay? So probably it doesn't make any sense here. You may say, oh, it's not going to take that much memory, but just saving 1 kilobyte of memory probably in a limited resource is going to save your code or going to save your application or something. Okay. So now this one looks okay. Okay. And the last thing probably I would like to do is I would like to refresh or replace my functions here. So instead of having these functions in my add event listener, I would like to keep it separately. So I will say function, and I will say add item click. And I will simply copy this one here. And instead of having this function keyword, I will just say add item click, just like this. Really like this even. Okay, fine. And another function, add item keyboard. I will say this one here. And instead of having function event, I will just say add item keyboard, okay, without calling it. So save, refresh, and let's check it out if it works. Papaya, I click enter, it works. Now, they do papaya, fine, pineapple. And if I click this button, that also works, okay? So you may ask why we are not calling this one here. Is there any idea why we're not calling it? So why we're not having something like this and like this? Any ideas?
Maybe if it's not has input value, it's by default.
I cannot hear you, sorry.
Sorry.
Maybe it's because the first parameter already. Can you hear me?
Any ideas?
Can you hear me?
Let me tell you, the reason why we're not calling it like this is because we would like to call it only when we click or key press something. Okay, if you're going to put it like this now, what is going to happen is you're going to add item click automatically without even pressing click. Okay, so you're not calling it right away. You are calling it only after you click it. Okay? And the same thing happens here. But there is one error, another error. Okay, it's not significant. It doesn't actually. We won't even notice it. Okay, so for us, everything works fine. When we say papaya and click enter, everything works. And if I click pineapple and click on my button, everything still works. But there is something else in our code that we need to fix. Can you please guess what has changed and why?
Teacher, are you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's wait and water something. Yes, I think there are problems with your microphones. No, I have no problems with sound. I can hear you, but it's breaking. Can hear each other. Anyway, in this code, is there any mistake you find? Let's wait 2 more minutes. I'm just going to check something here. No ideas? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, so the reason why there is no question or there are no answers to my question is that this code is completely fine. It's completely perfect. Okay, so I already explained you why we're not having a parenthesis here, why we're not calling it function immediately. Is that, as I said, we wanted to listen to a click happen, and here we wanted to listen to a key press event happen. Okay, so this is the perfectly working code. Okay, and we crafted it so well so that we are caching some repetitive functions and repetitive code lines of code, and also we separated functions from our event listeners, so we can have it separately. Okay, and now it works fine. Okay. And there were no like surprises or something in this code, so everything works correctly. Okay, and that's all I wanted to tell you. Okay, and probably why we're not getting a parenthesis here, we're not calling it, is because that is something that is called a callback function. Okay, so as I said, we don't want to run it immediately. We want it to run only when event happens. So it listens to the event, for example, a key leak, or for example, for click or key press, and only then it runs. Okay. So we want to let it know that that we want this action to happen when a click happens. Okay. So the function now automatically gets run. So it gets added this thing at the end only when click happens. Okay, so we are passing a reference to the function without running it. That's what we call a callback function. Okay, and I also want you to remember this one. And yeah, basically that's it for today.